Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment. Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course. We are excited to be here with Jean Ang and the Arcturians. This is the Galactic Transmissions, an introduction to an upcoming workshop series. Hi, Jean. Welcome.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, everyone. It's great to see everyone here, and I'm really excited to share these new energies and transmissions from Mount Shasta, where we just had a retreat.
That sounds like an amazing retreat. So you took 37 people to Mount Shasta, and tell us about the experience. You had some contact.
Oh, yeah. Every year I try to hold a retreat at Mount Shasta, and part of that is doing contact in the evening. And of course, Mount Shasta is known for having very thin veils, so to speak, and a lot of people come up here to actually make contact, whether you call it like ET, or I usually call it interdimensional contact. And now it's become pretty regular that I think a large population has had direct experience, in various groups. I came up here for the first time in Mount Shasta, which is my background here on the Zoom. In 2009, actually, to do a training with Stephen Greer, which I've talked about, like for our other classes, like the Intergalactics. But in particular, this year it was, very significant and very visible in the night sky. And whenever you see those sort of contact experiences, they actually download you with a lot of energetic information. And this is how, like the intergalactics, the modality that we've done some mastery empowerment classes with, kind of got birthed. But this was not just the intergalactics, as I kind of perceive what was behind the sightings. And so that's why I called it the Galactic Transmissions. It's just very high interdimensional beings, probably from a lot of different groups, were very visible in the night sky and kind of downloading us with a lot of energetic information that I think was merely, the message was meant to be shared. So that's what this series that we're doing here is about.
Yes, all right. So this series is based on the transmissions and the energetic downloads that you received in a group in Mount Shasta, and it's here for the rest of us. Can you share more on what the sightings were like? What did you guys experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because this year I actually recorded us outside. Of course, the visual recording didn't show up, so to speak, or that wasn't the purpose. It was more of the audio. And, it does capture the energy. Some people were actually connecting sort of kind of across the planet through the Zoom audio. And you can hear us just cheering all night on the first night, because some of these things were just, sort of out of this world, so to speak. But like usually I'll see those power-ups, and those are very significant. So we had more than we could count. And just for people who are new, that would be like in the night sky, you would see like basically a light brighten up, like almost to the like a dime, the size of a dime at the star level, and then completely come out. And that's very difficult to have, human generated um, phenomena like that. But then it would happen, like, let's say 5 times within maybe a minute or two. And so the first night, it was very interesting because I usually have a pre-talk on like what contact's like, and I was just sort of somewhat channeled, somewhat like inspired by the beings. And I was just saying, I'm just gonna go and I had left some equipment somewhere. I'm just gonna go and I hope you guys have the like contact experience of your life. By the time I get back, you won't even need me. That's exactly what happened that evening. I mean, to a T. I mean, everyone was just like before I even got out there, everyone had set up. They had already seen like things that had just sort of blown their mind, and then the rest of the evening was just more like that. But one in particular, just to describe, it was like it looked like a satellite moving, and then when you circle it, it powered up. And this one really just powered up for the longest I've ever seen it power up, and then kind of came back to darkness. So that was just one of maybe I would say 20 things that happened that evening.
One of 20 things that happened that evening. You mentioned that this was very active, more than usual. Any take on that? Is it just the readiness of the people you were with?
Yeah, well, what was interesting is like just being the facilitator and kind of having done these a number of years, and they're more than just one night. So there's like maybe 4 contact evenings. I knew with something that significant on the first night, it's tough to maintain that degree of intensity, really in anything, but even spiritually. So what was interesting, that was done at this house called the Majestic Retreat House that first night, where all those significant things happen. Then the next night we went on the mountain, and the way it played out was that we still saw very significant things. I would say it would be a very significant night on any other retreat, but it was much less. And then the third night was actually pretty quiet. We still went out. What was interesting, there was a lot of kind of what I would call human interference the third night, where nothing kind of, well, I wouldn't say nothing, but very little. That's where like there were campers there and they were maybe a little disturbed by such a big group. And so any kind of, it's much like if people have ever swum with dolphins. The
Yeah.
dolphins can kind of really sense you before they even appear to you. So if you're sort of nervous about being in the ocean and maybe getting too close to animals for the first time, they kind of keep their distance. And then as soon as you relax, they can feel that. So like if there's a lot of tension around the circle, maybe because, like maybe we're disturbing people or people felt disturbed and people were playing loud music to kind of try to make us leave, that kind of affects the contact, which in the overall picture was a good thing, because then you can see that, oh, those first experiences, even though it was almost undeniable, like any kind of doubt is sort of even lessened because you see the contrast.
So after this experience, there's no more doubt I believe that the people who go and join you on this already probably don't have that much doubt. But for
Mm.
the rest of us, I mean, we can just feel into this and there is no more doubt. What you saw was absolutely real and it wasn't imagination. And that's what you're talking about, that this becomes palpable and very real. And you know that now. So here are these transmissions that are coming about, and they are more of the energy that you were downloaded with. When you received any of these downloads, did anyone in your group report any interesting dreams or feedback on this week in Mount Shasta?
hmm well, what was interesting was this particular retreat, and we did some work with this here in prior mastery empowerment classes. Maybe those can be also included as a free gift, because this retreat was called 23 Degrees of Power, and there's actually a ley line that connects Peru, the sacred sites in Peru, to Mount Shasta. So that was the retreat theme for this Mount Shasta retreat. And just now reflecting on it, I think the combined energies, so we kind of were bilocating the pillar of energy that like the retreat participants create. Uh, between Mount Shasta and like T Lake Titicaca. And so I think that intensity of the energies from the Andes, even though we weren't in the Andes, but we're kind of connecting through that ley line, this particular 23-degree ley line, really changed really intensified. It really did feel similar to kind of those intense energies that are available from the Andes. And my characterization of those is that the beings there and the energies in the Andes can, like Peru, can really take you to your current edge, really push your subtle body system. I think that's actually what happened. And I mentioned in that in those Peruvian based mastery empowerment classes, like a almost like a dream after the tour, where I was on a tour. I'm not sure if you remember that sort of anecdote, but that's actually I felt like that was like an inner initiation tour. And what's interesting is a number of people, like at least two, have told me that after this Mount Shasta retreat they were feeling like they were on a kind of a continuing the retreat in the dream space.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very cool. And so, in our workshop here with the series of three that we're going to be doing with you, we're going to be receiving the energies that you received and downloaded as well. And it is interesting how it begins. Like right now, it's probably beginning as people watch this, or maybe it even began the night before they watched this. I've noticed that in hindsight, which is 2020, I've noticed, wow, it is all connected. We can really see how it works energetically. So these sessions, we have done the intergalactic transmissions. These are the galactic transmissions. Can you tell us more about these?
Yes, I think this is more general or collective, like the beings here who are connecting. Probably people have some kind of karmic link by the time they, let's say, would feel attracted or show up to the mastery empowerment class. So it's not so much one like named group. But in general, there's certain interdimensional beings, this is sort of my perception, that are overlooking the planet. They're sort of taking care of the planet. And that's how I characterize these galactic transmissions, or if you want to call them the galactic beings here. And they could be, different named galactic beings like the Arcturians or intergalactics. I think they're all part of that, the Pleiadians, the Syrians. There's probably some in this consciousness that are even named, but people might feel a connection to. But I was thinking of, I mentioned this teacher, Daskalos. His name was Stylianos Atishoulis. Daskalos is like, means teacher in Greek. But he would do most of his work out of body. And there was a book written about him called the Magus Astrobolos. And one chapter in that book is dedicated to what's called the titles like caretakers of the garden. And then when he would go out of body, he would see these, what he just called extraterrestrial beings, that actually their purpose was to take care of the planet, like oversee this planet Earth. And they kept mostly behind the scenes, like most of the general humanity wouldn't know them because they're kind of in the inner dimensions, but they can show up in the physical world, mostly like as what we saw, like lights because what our brain does is it takes that phenomena and almost translates it into something that makes sense to the physical brain, but really they actually exist in like these other subtle dimensions, but they're able to kind of generate something that can move into be perceived physically without clairvoyance, so something like our physical eyes could see. Anyways, I would say these beings are very much like what Daskalos was seeing out of body, sort of beings who are taking care of the planet, who are aware of what's going on vibrationally, energetically. And so I think these transmissions, which I think would be like when we do the actual mastery empowerment class, would be like a direct link to them. So it would be actually a new contact experience to them.
Okay, that's very cool. And we're excited for that because we're already starting to feel and sense into it. I know I am. And I don't know what to say except I think that we all want to connect and we all want to be there as caretakers alongside them. So a ritual to connect with them starts here with these transmissions, and we can always go back to it even outside of this class and listen to the recordings. Or what do you say about even making that connection afterwards, after we've made this link up, then it's there at our asking and our invocation. Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like even now, people can make that connection now, because it's one of intention, like you said, and openness, and just availability to know that those beings are there. I think that's probably the only reason they make the thing so visible, because the sense is not to, even from maybe their message, is not to be too reliant on things having to always happen in the physical. So that maybe that's why some of the nights were also very quiet. But internally there was a lot of contact because sometimes if things become too physically based, like you need something physical to show up, then you lose the fact that the connection is actually internal through intention. So a lot of times when we do the mastery empowerment classes, we're really relying more on the internal connection, which is actually the more lasting connection, and not having to rely so much that there was a power up that we needed to see for their reality to kind of base our reality on their realness on that. So there's kind of a combination of play, but I think there is a reason they're becoming more physically available to be seen. And yeah, it's just through intention. So people can make the intention now to connect to the galactic beings, or maybe there's a specific connection that people already know they're making from Mount Shasta that are part of these missions.
I can feel everyone watching and listening doing that right now as we speak, making that connection. And I love what you said there about the inner connection, because if we have the outer connection, which is undeniable, like you had, and then we have this inner connection, it just reinforces what we know within ourselves. So that's a beautiful thing. And then information that comes through us, we can call it light that comes through us. Would these beings be helping us bring light into our being? Are they working with our higher self to do that? What is your thought on this?
Yeah, I think overall the kind of the energetic transmission or the connection is to reinforce sort of whatever path we're on. So I think, in this more 3D reality, it can be sometimes discouraging. People can be discouraged, whether it's being the challenges, illnesses, relationships, connections, breakups, passing away of close family members, and we kind of sometimes get lost on our path. So that's one thing. I think there's an encouragement aspect, not necessarily to like adopt some new connection that has to do with the galactics, but more just an encouragement from the spiritual world, maybe through this collective or certain beings that people are there to kind of continue on one's path, or whatever that might be. So there's that reinforcement or bolstering. Then there is a sense that, as we're kind of moving through various personal and group and planetary challenges, new sort of energies, things are always getting faster, mostly due to technology. It's just because of how fast technology is. Like I use the analogy, like before, or maybe it was here, before we had the Pony Express. And then now we have chat, and like the speed that they're just showing, the speed of that means that our lives are much more faster than like 200 years ago, like when the Pony Express, when we had to send a message. So that also means our subtle bodies and consciousness is at a new speed and new level. So I think a lot of these downloads and frequencies is to meet that challenge, even before it comes. So our subtle bodies will already be at a higher frequency when these new changes or new frequencies start kind of hitting the planet in the next couple months.
Wow. All right. In the next couple of months, it is. I just, before we go on to the frequencies that you're going to talk about, it's very interesting that, some people do report feeling disconnected or not having their guides. And so when you guys went to Mount Shasta and you had a day where you didn't see it in the physical, that was the confirmation or the reinforcement that it's all within. And maybe there's times like if someone doesn't feel connected to their guide or their higher self, that that connection can be fortified or bolstered or amped up, ramped up anyway from within. Right? That's really comforting to realize that if we feel disconnected, we can make that connection again.
Oh yes, most definitely. And I think that's like with such the changes that are going on, both personally and collectively on the planet, there may be times where it seems like the connection is distorted or, like you said, not as clear. And I think that's more, of course, a perceptual thing rather than a reality. Like the connection actually is something that's already within us.
Mm.
It's more like to actually our own self that those connections, the spiritual connections are trying to resonate us back to our own inner wisdom, which is always present. So even in like the time where things like metaphorically like are like a storm where you can't see in front of you, and you're just trusting that whatever the next thing is in front of you is actually going to be all right. I think those are actually the times where you actually create the strongest connection to yourself when you've gone through enough of those experiences.
Well, beautiful. We are excited for this next series. And you mentioned that there's new energies coming onto the planet. Share more about that and what we're going to be doing in each of these sessions.
Yeah, I think as we kind of move through, particularly we're approaching now the equinox. Actually, maybe this will fall very close to the
During the
equinox.
equinox, and we didn't
Yeah,
even
maybe.
plan it that way. We didn't plan it that way. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's always a big shift in the planet, whether it's like the fall or the spring equinox, depending on the hemisphere that you're currently living in physically. But then that's really a kind of an ushering in of sort of like as we move to the end of the kind of calendar year, always new energies, and then of course the new year, we're always bringing in something new, something bright, something to integrate. So a lot of it's the intention and also the reception. So these are almost like energies that could prepare us to receive more during all these different critical junctures, like the equinox, and then there'll be the solstice as the planet changes, particularly very quickly. As we kind of almost like are moving out of maybe that intensity of focused on like the COVID period, which was a couple of years, and like where do we go? Where are we going now? Like what are the new energies that we're moving into now? Um, yeah, so but I can maybe mention some of the different frequencies or themes that will be coming through for each of the days. And again, like I mentioned, a lot of this might be also very personal. People might feel they have their own reasons for joining, that they already feel that connection. So these are kind of like a general framework for what might be coming down those days. But the first day is becoming frequency holders is the theme. So this is like really changing our frequency and bringing down those particular codes that might be available that we can then sort of emanate out. It may be in a formal way, like some people might be light workers in terms of like energy healers or facilitators. So then that's sort of like a transfer that occurs that kind of can add to that sort of band of information that they may be bringing through to groups or individuals or others, particularly like through the internet platforms. Or it might just be like holding a new frequency, and then wherever you go, you're sort of like transferring that to others. So that's sort of the first transmission or set of transmissions.
Can you explain how the seven subtle bodies, receive these codes?
Mhm. Yeah, so just if that's I've been using that framework, but just so that we have that sort of fleshed out, those seven subtle bodies is the like a multi-dimensional model. So it's like the physical, etheric, which is like the prana or chi body, the emotional, mental, causal, spiritual, and divine subtle bodies. And the divine is sort of where we're non-dual with the all or the one or God, source, and all consciousness. And then the spiritual bodies, like our soul information, like the Akashic record information, and the causal body, just since that's maybe not as self-evident, is like our karmic information field. So all the causes and effects that we've created through our consciousness in this life, and if you believe in past lives and other lifetimes. So we're sort of always in energetic information exchange with other, what I call information fields, whether that be a person, a place, beings like the galactic beings. And so we're always exchanging, almost like we're swapping hard drives of our information fields, but on all of those subtle body levels. And then the things that we kind of go into most resonance with is sort of what really pops up on the screen, or so-called gets unpacked. So even though like the hard drives are switched, we wouldn't necessarily read out everything, just because we each have a certain kind of resonance or strong kind of connection to certain information. And then that in particular information kind of gets read out or exchanged or manifests in our awareness.
So then the next day, we are going to be working with the galactic gold colors in the aura. And again, this affects our seven subtle bodies. This is interesting, Jean.
Yeah, so this was a particular download, like a transmission sphere that was given when I sort of made this connection to the galactic beings and what was part of this, mastery empowerment class. And the perception is that, in particular, the gold color is a very high frequency divine energy. And as we kind of raise all our different subtle bodies, like there's something called the golden body in certain Taoist practices, and that's like where your etheric body can have actually a lot of divine light in it, and actually starts to look gold on the etheric or pranic level. But through octaves or resonance, each of the bodies can kind of hold that similar gold vibration. So this transmission is meant to kind of transmute or transform all our subtle bodies. Probably people are already holding a lot of gold in their aura and subtle bodies, but to carry even more of that kind of gold light. And when you have that sort of vibration, you attract very similar vibrations and thoughts into your field. So that's what allows for these kind of development of different, they call them CDs or powers, spiritual abilities that you can use to assist others, other beings. That might be like clairvoyance or telepathy or healing abilities. It's sort of like when the subtle bodies and consciousness is very purified, then, or in high frequency, then our gifts sort of just come out naturally.
Our gifts are coming online, and for all the healers out there, this is something that will help in their healing work. And we've had reports of that from folks as well, that this does amplify their healing abilities, their presence, and that's a beautiful thing. So our next transmission is on galactic unity consciousness. And boy, we've been waiting a couple of years. For the light workers out there, unity consciousness, especially in the 2020s, has been on the top of our minds and in our hearts. So this is important because now it's galactic unity consciousness. And this is just another rung on the ladder towards unity consciousness that will help us be stronger in helping the collective with unity consciousness as well. Would you agree?
Yeah. I think the best way to, I mean, it's a somewhat self-evident, but maybe one way to kind of also see, from our history to now, and then what we're doing in the future is, before, let's say there were only sailing ships, when there were just the explorers sailing. There were isolated communities that may have never ever saw another community. Like now there's no internet, there's no even Pony Express. We're just sort of isolated communities. We didn't even know there were other communities on the planet if we were born at that time. And then when those sailing ships started to come, there's that idea that like most people from a certain tribe wouldn't even be able to see some of these sailing ships. Only the shaman could see it because they had that conception in their mind. And then now that's sort of it's almost unbelievable that you wouldn't be able to see like a sailing vessel in kind of anchored out in the ocean, because now we all have that conception. And so we're kind of, if we take that metaphorically and apply it now, it's sort of like we're used to like, okay, we can communicate with all the countries, everyone on the planet, almost at lightning speed, at the speed of thought through technology, let alone telepathy, which is, I think, a lot of the planet is becoming more conscious of their telepathic nature. But now to start to think, oh, there are actually other beings. Maybe they don't exist physically, or they're somewhat half physical, half non-physical. That's sort of like just the beginning of seeing those ships in the ocean, where only kind of the shamans could see them, even though they were there to be seen, because, but there was no conception around them. And so that's kind of what this galactic unity consciousness is. There's more and more people on the planet. Maybe that's why, like, with a bigger group, even a bigger group like 37 people, even more could be seen because all those 37 people had to be coherent in order for that much sighting to occur. Because even if one or two people are really not into it, or maybe that's not really their interest, it was just fine too, which is good too, then the sightings tend to be less because they need to match the group's, overall intention. Sightings can still occur, but it's sort of, I've seen it kind of dampen down a little bit, so that it doesn't like over kind of power the group. But I think, more and more people are open to that. And I think that is, I've kind of labeled it that galactic unity consciousness, sort of this openness to interconnections and spiritual beings that are kind of both in this physical reality, but really existing more on the interdimensional planes.
Well, we are again looking forward to this time with you and these sessions together. It really is quite an exquisite setting when we gather with our soul family in this way. And each recording, each day is its own container of energy, and it's so beautiful. So we're looking forward to it, these 3 sessions with you. And this would be a wonderful time right now to experience a little mini transmission from Eugene.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yes, we'll do actually a little bit of the galactic unity consciousness connection or transmission. And in general, people will be able to feel sort of these energies. Of course, they're sourced from the divine through our guides, and also with what are called the galactic beings that were, showing up in this recent Mount Shasta retreat, that are present right here through our intention. Okay. Yeah, so people can just relax, just and just receive, and you can set your own intention for the galactic unity consciousness in whatever way that's sort of conceived by you in this highest form. So we're starting formally the galactic unity consciousness transmission. You can just relax and receive, and if there's any specific intentions around the transmission, you can state those silently. And now we're entering a second deepening cycle with the Galactic Unity Consciousness Transmission. Now we're entering the third and final deepening phase of the Galactic Unity Transmission. And that completes the transmission. You can gently but firmly come back to your physical body now. And when you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
And the world will be a better place. I hear that song, Shannon Deshay. Anyway, beautiful, exquisite. I saw gold everywhere, a
That's great.
huge gold blanket, mist, just veil just came around our entire group. And I did feel a tremendous peace there. I hope everyone is feeling that. I know it's different for everyone, but then I literally saw how we are one with everything. We are one with everything, with that cloud on your image behind you,
Oh,
to
yeah.
a rock, a piece of gravel, a piece of gravel. And then I saw the notion of competition just dissolve. And I feel like crying now because I could see, if our planet and the collective really understands this energy and feels this energy, how the world will shift. No competition. I saw from a galactic viewpoint, people working together in harmony and peace. And I know that's a goal that I have very close to my heart, and it's your goal as well. And it's all of our aspirations and dreams and desires of our group here that joins us in these meetings. So I think we're so much closer, but we're just able to feel it in a different way now. And that's so beautiful. Thank you for that, Jean.
Oh, yeah. And thank you for sharing that vision again. It's so great to hear it kind of in words.
It's hard to articulate, but it is beautiful. And that's why we're excited about this next series with you. All of these events are so high vibrational that it's beyond any 3 sessions. Like you said, it happens before we join, it happens after, it happens in our dream space, our sleep space, and it's really transformational. So we invite those watching and listening to join us. It's going to be wonderful. It's always so good to see everyone again, and new people as well. Family is here. It really is soul family. Thank you. Jean, would you like to give the intergalactic transmissions as a bonus with this course?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was thinking, I mentioned how this is connected to the Peru. Maybe we could, the fields of divinity.
Yes.
Yes, that actually would be very like relevant and would kind of a great bridge of the energies that actually kind of came through and will be coming through for these galactic transmissions.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. What a gift. So, Fields of Divinity was another series that we did, 3 of those sessions. It was exquisite as well. And so that's included with this program. What a gift. We are in honor of that. And thank you, Jean. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Anything else you'd like to add, Jean, as we say goodbye?
Oh yeah, just so that people recognize what the connection is. The Field of Divinity was done right after I returned from Peru, which was this past April. And then this Mount Shasta retreat, as I was mentioning kind of earlier in the talk here, was actually a connection between the Peruvian Andean energies at Lake Titicaca and Mount Shasta, because there's a ley line that connects the two. So it's sort of like that mastery empowerment class, and then this one, which is post Mount Shasta retreat, are all of kind of like a family of energies that have come are related.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank
Uh,
you so much.
thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. We look forward to seeing you, and we thank you for holding these frequencies and becoming frequency holders.